Nadine, welcome to my YouTube channel, and today I'm interviewing a very special young lady who I met less than a week ago, and she has an incredible story which also happened within the last week for this new series that I've developed for my YouTube channel, which is called Manifested: Perfectly Ordinary Women with Extraordinary Stories. Just to give you a brief introduction as to what this series is all about. Perfectly ordinary women with extraordinary stories. It's something that I've had in the back of my mind for years now. I love the idea that all of us are perfectly ordinary, and that's a compliment rather than an insult. Sometimes it might sound like an insult saying ordinary women, but we are ordinary women, but we're doing extraordinary things, and that is perfect, and we are perfect as we are. So that was the whole premise of the series. And then my interest in manifestation has been growing over the past few years, and I thought this was an excellent idea for a series. So during this series, I'm going to be bringing to you things that extraordinary stories from perfectly ordinary women, hopefully to provide some inspiration for your own life. So without further ado, Rebs from Rebs Tries It. I will link your YouTube channel in the show notes below. Let's tell the viewers about the story. So we met, was it 5 days ago?
Yeah, we met 5 days ago, and it was at the YouTube event which we were both invited to, Women in YouTube. And we had a great conversation, and then kind of off the back of that, we were talking a little bit about what manifestation is and how it works, and then everything just seemed to unravel from there. So
isn't that amazing? It's like you could just meet somebody and an opportune time, and then something incredible happens as a result of that, or you get an idea from that, or whatever it is. So to not keep anyone hanging on any longer, I want to go into your story, and then we can talk about manifestation afterwards. But the reason that we're having this conversation today, so within 48 hours of us meeting each other in London, you were on BBC News.
yeah, it was crazy. And I think we'd had a conversation where we'd been talking about, and you'd introduced to me a little bit of like manifestation all around wanting an envelope. You said to me, "Can I get an envelope from YouTube?" And I said, what do you want an envelope for? And you began to explain a bit of manifestation. At that point, I started thinking about it and being like, well, what do I want? What do I want to do? And you said, well, why don't you go for it? Why don't you try it? And then put some feelers out there. And the next thing I know, within I think it was slightly less than 48 hours, I was on BBC News for a video that I'd made about training like Taylor Swift, which blew my mind. And then even better off the back of that is I'd been trying to get Taylor Swift tickets for quite a while now. And as a result of that, I managed to get Taylor Swift tickets because a friend of a friend of a friend was sent the video and said, I've got some spare tickets. Would you like to come? So I've both managed to get on BBC News and also get Taylor Swift tickets. So it's kind of all blown up in crazily in the last 48 hours. So yeah, fantastic.
That is absolutely amazing. What I love, Rebs, is that you woke up Monday morning thinking, I'm going to have a nice day in London, I'm going to go to this event, and then when I get back tomorrow, I'll have more work to do, whatever, I'll do things for my YouTube channel. You had no clue that 48 hours later, you'd have Taylor Swift tickets in your hand and you'd be a star of BBC News with your article, did you?
Yeah, zero clue, zero expectations as to what the event was, where I'd be, and suddenly just everything's fallen into place, and it's amazing what's happened, really.
Rebs, you accidentally touched on one of the key things of manifestation, which is you just said you had zero expectations.
Oh.
And now this is the reason I highlight this is because after I had this idea, I'm going to interview you for my new series on manifestation and extraordinary stories. And then you said, well, I'm a bit new to manifestation, so I don't fully know what it's all about, but you've naturally done what, I suppose, what comes naturally to you. You had zero expectations. That's something that I just wanted to pull out of what you just said, because that is one of the keys to manifestation. So you actually, in this scenario, you were an unconscious manifester, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and how does that work? Because I don't really know how manifestation works. I've had a couple of short conversations on it, But in my head, I'd always expect that manifestation is about what you want. So in a way, do you not almost have expectations? Like, how does that work with imagining and having zero expectations at the same time?
It's one of those subjects which is quite knotty to get into at the start, because you're like, yeah, but you've just said zero expectations, but then how can you know what you want and move towards what you want and have zero expectations? It's very paradoxical. And this is the thing with manifestation. But just to start, rewind it back.
Yeah.
We are all, whether we realize it or not, manifesting our reality at all times.
Mm-hmm.
That could be good and that could be bad, but we are always manifesting our reality at all times. Now, this is a potentially controversial statement that some people may get upset with and say, well, my life is in the crap and I don't want this and I don't manifest this. That's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants for their life to be crap. However, the universe, I suppose it depends what you believe in and your spiritual beliefs, or whatever you choose to believe in. The universe doesn't necessarily give you what you want. It gives you what you're vibrating, your vibration, your energy level, what you're putting out. And so it doesn't necessarily give you what you want. So I could say, I want £1 million. It's not necessarily, it might give me it, but it might not give me it. It's not necessarily going to give me what I want. It's going to give me what's an energetic match to my vibrational level. And if that all sounds a bit woolly, the best way to think of it, to drill it down and to make it easy, the best way to think about it is, we all want to manifest and we all want to experience nice, happy, positive, lovely things. Nobody wants rubbish. The best way to get lovely things in general is to keep your vibration high. And the best way to do that is to focus on what you do want and focus on what you're grateful for that you already have. So we may have plenty that we're very grateful for and we're excited about, and that helps keep your vibration high. And then with a higher vibration, you will attract more higher vibrational things, Taylor Swift tickets, appearances on BBC News, etc. So it's putting it into that context. Manifestation, we are manifesting our reality whether we like it or not. So when we are constantly saying to ourselves, oh, the weather is so miserable, I'm sick of the rain, I'm depressed, I'm unhappy. And this isn't to minimize depression or unhappiness. I myself in the past was depressed. I took antidepressants for several years. So I do know that, I know that struggle, and I know clawing myself back out of that. So this isn't to minimize that in any way, shape or form. But what this is to say is to bring some awareness to the fact that we're creating our own realities. So when we're saying, I am miserable, well, of course you want to be right.
Yeah,
we always want to be right. So we're reinforcing it. So the universe will send us more things to be miserable about so that it can be right about being miserable. But if we flip that on our head, I am happy, I am ecstatic, I am excited. How do you feel now? Now we've said, and the words I am, the two most powerful words in the English language, I am. Whatever you say after it is so. It is so. It's just a way of thinking about things and relating to the world based off of that belief. So it's not about pretending or saying, I'm the Queen of England. Well, clearly I'm not the Queen of England, and me saying it doesn't make it so, but it's more about finding the emotion and the state behind what I'm saying. So I might say, I'm as happy as the Queen of England. Well, that could be true. Well, not the Queen of England, because she's no more, but you get what I mean. With the high vibrational stuff and manifesting what you want, in your case, Rebs, you were an unconscious manifester because you did not set out to get Taylor Swift tickets. And you did. You were trying to buy them, but you weren't successful in buying them.
Yeah, to me, this is almost sounding like maybe things that I've been doing unconsciously, but it's almost that guiding principle and where do I want to be, which I've always thought about of what would what do I want? Where do I want to be? But I've never really written it down and done anything about that. But I have like a guiding principle of a rough direction where I would find good. And I think also that reframing is something that I never really thought about as manifestation, but something that I've always tried to do. And I think there's a term called PMA, positive mental attitude, that I always try and reframe things if I find myself being negative. And I've done it over the years with like things like rain. Like in the UK, we can be very negative about the weather. It's like, well, actually, I really like rain if I don't have a laptop with me. So, and it's just trying to reframe that as actually the drizzle's really refreshing, or it's good for the plants. And maybe I've been doing that, as you said, quite unconsciously for a while, just trying to reframe things into a positive way to make things more positive, or having like those guiding principles of like, I would really like this, or, thinking that I'd really like these tickets. And then it's kind of come about in an subconscious way. Actually, I'm interested in hearing more about, because I remember when I mentioned it at the start when we first met, that's because you were looking for an envelope of all things. How does it work with, is it something you just think about when you're manifesting it, or is it best to write it down? I think I've seen things like vision boards. Like, what's the different ways you can do it, or is there a recommended approach?
That's such a great question, but I think I'm going to have to address the whole envelope thing, because we've mentioned it a couple of times, and people watching will be like, why do you keep talking about an envelope? What is that? Okay, so just to give you a bit of information about the whole envelope scenario. As we record this video, my current YouTube subscriber number is something around 2,222 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
All the twos, because that was a funny thing. I don't know if it was you or another lady at YouTube I was talking to, but I was showing, we were discussing YouTube channels and swapping details, and she pointed at my subscriber numbers, which said 2.22k, and then right next to it, it showed the number of videos I'd uploaded at the time, which was 202. Yeah. These are angel numbers.
Whoa.
And it was like, oh wow. Angel numbers are repeating sequences of numbers that can be used as a guide to deeper spiritual exploration. So, for example, the more times a number repeats, the stronger the signal is from the universe. And maybe if you see an angel number, for example, 222, if you see the number 222 in different sources multiple times, it doesn't have to be 222, by the way. It could be whatever, 333, 444. It could be 1111. But the point is that whatever numbers, repeating number sequences you are noticing, these are signs from the universe that give you a nudge in the right direction. So if you say, for example, saw it several times, 222, in different sources, on a number plate, on the microwave clock, it could be anywhere. If you saw it, it's perhaps the universe giving you a nudge that you're in the right direction. And so I did a little Instagram share and in my stories, and I put, look, I'm on the right track. It's angel numbers. It's like the universe giving you a clap, giving you a little, you're on the right track. You spotted the signals that I've sent for you. So to go back to the whole envelope scenario, you, in your Taylor Swift tickets and being on BBC News, were unconsciously manifesting because you did not set out to get that. Mm-hmm. In my case, I'm consciously manifesting something specific. And so you can do both. Your way is sort of just in general having a nice happy life, and that's wonderful, and then they're delighted when nice things happen as a result. This way that I'm doing for this particular outcome, and why I needed a YouTube envelope, is when you are manifesting, yes, you might put stuff on vision boards to show, these are my goals, these are what I want, I see myself in these scenarios. Maybe you've got a nice house, a nice car, a sunny holiday with a palm tree and a beach, whatever it is that you desire, you could put that visually onto a vision board. That's a great way of manifesting, because you'll find that over time, if you keep your vision boards, you might look back to a vision board that you did 10 years ago and not realize, because you forgot all about what you put on it, and not realize, oh, but that came true and that came true, and you won't realize because you didn't have it in the forefront. I'm going to get that house, I'm going to get that car. You didn't have it in your mind. You just put it on a vision board way back when, and then if you discover this vision board, you're like, oh wow, I managed to do it, I got it. So The whole vision board scenario is one way. Now, the YouTube envelope I particularly wanted because I wanted to do a specific manifestation, which was YouTube would write to me. I don't know if YouTube actually writes. They probably email
DM.
or DM. I don't know if YouTube would write a letter and put it in the envelope and put a stamp on it and send it to me. I don't know if that happens because I haven't had 1 million subscribers yet. But the people who do have 1 million subscribers will know what happens. Well, I don't know. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to ask YouTube, can I have an envelope with your branding on it? And that way I'm going to write a letter to myself. Congratulations, Nadine, on reaching 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And the letter goes in the, you know, and I'll just put whatever else I like, you know. As a celebration, we're going to invite you for afternoon tea at the Rebs. I mean, I'm sure they probably don't do that either, but I want that, so why not? Let's put it in the letter. And then I'm going to write it as if it's from YouTube to me. And I'm going to post it in my YouTube envelope down the local post box down the street, and it's going to come through the postal system, and it's going to arrive in my home post box with it's been franked, it's got the stamp on it, it's come through the post. Well, now I can quite honestly, and in reality, I mean, I haven't done this yet because I've only had the YouTube envelope a couple of days, so I haven't actually done this yet. But once all that process occurs, and I have done it, and I receive the letter from YouTube, it's not really from YouTube, it's from me, but pretending to be YouTube. When I receive it, I open it up. Well, I'm tricking my brain in a way because, oh, I received a letter in a YouTube envelope today. That is 100% the truth, isn't it? Because I received the letter in a YouTube envelope. I'm not lying. I actually received a letter through the post in a YouTube envelope. 100% true, true, true. Now my brain's thinking, oh, okay, this is true. And then I open the letter and it says, congratulations, you are on 1 million subscribers. So at the time of writing, I'm on 2,222 subscribers. And then my aim, my manifestation is 1 million subscribers. Now, just the act of me reading those words doesn't immediately jump me to 1 million subscribers, but it plants a seed. And then I let go of expectation. So I'm not going to be like trying to increase my subscriber numbers by saying, if you follow me, I'll follow you, and let's bump it up that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to step back. I've put it out there into the universe, let the universe work its magic, and we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll take 1 year, maybe it'll take 10 years, maybe it'll take 25 years. Who knows? I'm not in a hurry. If I know it's going to happen eventually, where's the pressure? Let it happen. Let it build in its own time. So that's the premise of that. Does that make sense? I hope it does.
It does. I can see where that's coming from. It's just like, I would like this. It's almost grandiose goals of like, at some point, I would like this to happen. And then you put it out there and you can almost, it's still in the back of your mind. It's cemented now as a guiding principle of like, this is what would be nice, but you're not doing it every day. And like, I know that every year I do goals that are very smart. It's like, I need to achieve them in this year, but it's never those grandiose goals. And actually it's probably quite a good exercise to have a mixture of short term, this is what I want to achieve, this is how I'm going to do it. This is like smart as the principle of like specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time bound, along with these are your guiding principles that it may happen tomorrow, it may not happen for 10 years, as you say. That all makes sense. And then I'm really curious, when you have it, do you keep it in a visual place? So do you have like a notice board of these manifestations and envelopes that you sent, or is it something you more put away and will revisit periodically, or what do you do with it after you've received it?
So in my personal scenario, I mean, everybody will handle things differently. Just because the letter has come through the post, I don't necessarily need to hang on to it. It's like, I got the check mark. I got a letter in a YouTube envelope in the post. It's done. That's 100% true. My brain can go tick. I don't need to hang on to the letter because the subconscious already knows what is true. So in that respect, I don't need to keep it. But in my case, what I tend to do is, depending on what it is I want to manifest, if there's something specific, I have a vision. I actually have 2 vision boards in my office right next to each other because it wasn't the stuff I wanted wasn't big enough for one board. I needed
Love
two
it.
boards. So I have my two boards right next to me where I sit and type, and they're there all the time. And just, I suppose every time I go into the office and sit down at my desk, I see it when I just catch sight of it visually. I also have a vision board, a different one, because there are lots of different possibilities in life, and why wouldn't we want to think about what we want for all of them? I have a different vision board as the screensaver on my phone.
Oh, that's a nice way of doing it.
Think about how many times a day you pick up your phone and look at the screen. How many times a day? So every single time I pick up my phone, the lock screen is my vision board, my current vision board. So I will update this as I go. So on my current vision board, I have a picture of a lady giving a sound bath. I've just done some sound therapy training, and now I'm qualified to do this for myself. So that was one of my manifestations there, and that's something that's come true. So in that respect, you might say, well, that's you setting a goal, working for it and achieving it. Yes, it absolutely is. But I have another example of a manifestation. So on Monday, that's when I met you on Monday at YouTube in London. I'm from Yorkshire, so to get to London and to get home, I had to take a 2-hour train journey each way. On the way down to London, every single seat on my train was booked and full, and so I had somebody sat next to me who was a stranger, thankfully kept themselves to themselves. You know, you never know, do you, when you sat next to somebody on the train, are they going to take up more space? So it was a fine journey down. On the way home, the train was again fully ticketed. And I didn't choose my seats on the train. I just put in the journey I wanted to do, and the train company issued me my seat. Yeah, it was automatic. So when I got on the train on the way home, I was sat on a table for 4. You know, in the train now you've got these tables, and I was on my own, and then I looked at the other 3 tickets, and the travellers were going from London to the same destination. So I thought, I'm obviously been sat in here to fill the seat, and these 3 people know each other. Nobody got on those seats. All 3 seats were blank. Every single seat on this train home was full. And there were 2 fellows sat behind me who were together, and they were with another 2 fellows sat in the row opposite who were together. So there was 4 of them. I didn't offer the seat. I could have
You
done.
just spread yourself out.
I didn't actually even think of offering the seat, because I thought at some stage somebody could come and claim this seat. I don't know if they're in the loo and they're going to come back to the seat, but they never. I didn't even think about it. I just enjoyed the space. But I couldn't have possibly known that I would end up on a table for 4 with all that space and able to stretch my legs out and not have a seat neighbour. That's an example of a manifestation that I did not set my goal on. I did not set that as an achievement but it happened anyway. Just like the time I went to the Subway drive-through and I asked for a 6-inch sub, and I paid for a 6-inch sub, and I got to the window and they gave me a foot long, and I'm like, you've given me, they went, oh, it's the tuna, you know, it's tuna, it's the one you ordered. I went, okay, thank you, see you later. Drove off with a foot-long sub for the price of a 6-inch. It's not massive. It's not a massive thing. It's not going to change the world, but it was nice. It was sort of a nice way. I sort of went, thank you, to the university.
Interesting, because it's almost a way of bringing gratefulness to it. Because I think I previously would have been like, oh, I've been lucky. And I in the past have done like, oh, I've been unlucky with this. I'm like, actually, no, I need to reframe it. But it's almost that it's happened, and you're thanking it rather than being like, oh, it's lucky and almost taking it for granted. So it's a nice switch of mentality in a way, which is...
It's exact. You've hit the nail on the head, Rebs. It's acknowledging where you've been fortunate. So every time, when somebody holds a door open for me, instead of letting it slam in my face out in public, I'm always grateful. Now you might say, well, that's just being polite. Just saying thank you. That's basic decency. Of course it's basic decency, but how many times do we hold the door open for someone and they don't thank you and they don't recognize it? So you might say it's basic decency and politeness, but I just make a point of saying thank you so much. Thank you. And it doesn't cost anything, and it just makes everybody's day a little bit happier.
And calmer as well. You know, it will come back around if you don't.
Absolutely.
Actually, that almost reminds me of one of the phrases which I've said, which is it's more of a rationale way for me. I think people use it as more of like a spiritual thing. But for me, it's like I often use the phrase of everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Which is often how I deal with things maybe aren't quite as positive. Because often it can be really hard, I find sometimes, not to dwell on what if I had done that, or if I'd taken a different path, and you'll never know. And I've for quite a long time actually I've used the phrase everything happens for a reason, because you can't look back on it, but sometimes you don't realize at the time, but maybe something a slightly more negative experience will turn around, and it will you'll learn something from it, and you take those learnings. That's almost, I almost said it myself as I was talking then, it's the phrase that I almost use, which is actually almost a bit of manifestation as well. It's you find the gratefulness in whatever situation it is, and that it has happened for a reason. You don't may not know it now, but actually it's in the future. Whether you view it because it's more of a kind of a thing that's happening in the world, or if you view it more of a way to rationalize the way that the world is, and to stop yourself going back, maybe if you're not that spiritual anyway. That's one phrase that I use, which actually feels like it's a bit more towards this vein of thinking that I use a lot, but I hadn't thought about before. It's quite interesting.
Absolutely. And I agree with everything you just said. Another way to frame what you said, everything happens for a reason. That's a phrase I use myself. Another way to think of it, life is happening for you, not to
Ooh.
you.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it's like everything happens for a reason. You could think life is happening for you rather than to you. I just find it helps, for me, my state, my mood, and my attitude. If even when rubbish things happen, I look for the lesson. What is this teaching me? Is this something that I could have prevented? Is this something that I need to learn from? And this doesn't mean, this sort of happy thinking doesn't mean that everything is rainbows and unicorns and everything goes right every day and there's never any trouble or strife. So there are things that are going on that aren't always quote unquote positive, but there's a reason for them. It's like obstacles. I've done a lot of videos on my YouTube channel about emotional eating, because being overweight and weight loss has been one of my goals that has been a real struggle for me. But I've really struggled with weight loss and self-sabotage and things like that. Looking for the lesson in, I suppose, getting curious. And I've got curious about things that have triggered me. If something's triggered me for some reason, instead of just rushing to the chocolate, which is what I would have done in the past, I pause for a second. I may still rush to the chocolate. I may still take that soothing, that because that's what my brain has identified. There, look after yourself with a treat, with a chocolate. So that programming is still there. But what I do now is I look for the lesson in it. Why do I feel this way? Why was I triggered? And I did one, it's probably about 2 years ago now. There was one, and I just realized I feel triggered because they've overstepped my boundaries, and I felt under threat because my boundaries have been overstepped. Now, if you were watching the scenario as an outside observer, you'd be like, what the heck is she talking about? Nobody's done anything to her. Nobody's overstepped any boundaries. But that's how I felt. Yeah. And so it's getting curious about what's going on for you. It doesn't necessarily mean, they always say, don't they, there's 3 versions of the story: your version, their version, and the truth. And there is. I've got my perspective and I view through my lens. Other people have their perspective and view through their lens. And then the truth is devoid of all emotion. It's just what happened.
And it almost sparked my idea as you were speaking there about the reframing of it's happening to me and for me. Is if you phrase it as it's happening to me, it's almost as if you can't control it. Whereas when you reframe it as it's happening for me, you're bringing that element of control into it. And you may not be able to control the situation that's happening, like literally to you, but you can change how you respond and what's happening for you. Because if you react in a certain way, then you have that control over whether you do X or whether you do Y, or how you interpret it. And you can interpret it in more of a negative light or a positive light. So it's that complete reframing of, you have control of the situation again, even if the actual thing that's happening you don't have control of, you have control of yourself.
It gives you a more empowered mindset. So rather than being in a victim mindset where everything's happening to me, it becomes an empowering mindset. Everything's happening for me. The mountaineer needs the mountain. That's a famous saying, isn't it? The mountaineer needs the mountain. In my scenario of weight loss, that has been my mountain to conquer. It has been tough to lose weight. As I'm sat here now, I still have a couple of stone, probably 2 stone to go. I've lost either 3 or 4. I'd lose track. I don't keep track now. Well, I do keep track from the starting weight, but I don't like micro
You're not every day,
you're not,
yeah.
because that's filling up my brain with stuff that really is quite irrelevant. I'd rather concentrate on having a nice life and doing things like this and talking to people like you and creating for YouTube and all the fun things. What are the lessons I needed to learn? I did a YouTube video. I'll actually put it here. I did a YouTube video a few years ago, which was about weight loss. And I'd said something like, I didn't want to, my weight, my fat was serving me. It was serving me. In my conscious mind, I'd be like, no way, I don't want this. I want to move away from this. I have a goal to lose weight and I'm not achieving it and I'm frustrated with myself. But on some level, that fat was serving me. And when I unpicked it, I began to realize my brain, my perception was slim people, quote unquote, have their shit together. And I didn't want to, I know you're looking quizzically, I didn't want to have my shit together.
Yeah.
Because I was protecting myself from being someone who everybody brought all their problems to. Now, this is a very unique conditioning, unique to me and my upbringing. I grew up eldest child in a family and a lot of responsibility was put onto me and I grew up very quickly. I already deal with enough crap from other people. Yeah. I do not want to take on more crap. Hence, slim people in my mind have their shit together. I don't want to look like I've got my shit together because if I have my shit together, then I'm available for more crap from more people. This is a whole me, myself, and I problem. This is where boundaries come in. I've had to learn how to set boundaries because you can stop people bringing all their crap to you by erecting and maintaining firm boundaries, can't you? So I was sabotaging my weight.
Yeah, so you've moved from the physical, I don't have everything together, to being actually, I'm going to let myself change how I perceive this so that I can get to a place where I feel healthier. But to do that, I need to have this mental, this is how I'm going to protect myself, which then allows you to not have to use this physical signal in a way as you're interpreting it. That's
absolutely
super.
You hit the nail on that. You're a natural manifestor, Rebs, you see.
I don't know. I had one question. You were talking about how you create your vision boards and you have it on your phone, the updated one. How often do you do this in terms of when you create your board? Is it something you're updating on a regular basis? Is it a trigger point that you use in order to update it? Is it a yearly thing when you feel like it? How does that work?
The answer is basically when I feel like it, when it feels necessary. I mean, some people may like the structure of saying on January 1st every year, I'm going to set my new goal. That's great. If that works for you, that's great. For me, whenever I feel called to do so is the answer. So if I have something, my vision board may or may not change a great deal. Maybe some things, if they've been achieved and I think I've got that now, it may leave the vision board to make way for new things, but I don't have a set formula. I just update as and when, going with the flow, creative. And I like what you said as well earlier on in the conversation. You said, maybe I need to have, I've got my overarching long-term goals, but maybe I need to have more shorter-term goals or lots of little goals and big goals. And I think that's a great idea, a mixture of both. So it could be as simple as manifesting a foot-long sub. I mean, nobody's going to like do a whole vision board on that. That's just one of these happy things that happens in your life. But they might put a house, a roof of our own over our heads onto their vision board. And that's obviously a bigger, perhaps longer-term goal. I say perhaps because it doesn't necessarily have to be long term. We think of these things as long term, but the universe, you never know. How do you know you're not going to win that house draw that they advertise on the telly, and then you've got a house tomorrow. So
Yeah, and I guess also I watched a video on it after we spoke, and one thing that stood out to me is you may put something down with an initial intention of, for example, quite a materialistic thing like a house, but then when you reflect back on it, that's actually not what it was symbolizing, and it might be symbolizing the security. So you may not have the house, but you have the security of feeling like you maybe don't have to worry about rent or something similar. And I wonder how much of that is, and maybe when you're doing your goals, are you deliberately trying to draw away from more materialistic things and more towards what it represents? Or are you saying, actually, I'm going to put down what I feel like, and then when you reflect on it, you maybe think about different ways in which it has materialized, which may not be what you expected? Or is there kind of best principles on don't be materialistic, or is it just go for it, I guess is the question.
such a great question, because what I love about that is you're highlighting something and giving me the opportunity to go into it. I don't think that being material, like when you said being materialistic, I'm doing little quote marks in the air, because I think many people would think, well, I should only put things on my vision board if they're worthy, i.e., the only way I'm worthy of receiving a lot of money is if I aim to give lots of it away. Well, that people may feel better about stating that as their goal because there's a worthy element, i.e., giving it all away. But what you touched on is, I don't think you need to judge yourself whether it's a worthy ambition or not. If you want the designer handbag, even though other people may say, well, oh, that's a waste of money, why would you spend £3,000 on a handbag? Well, other people would be like, yeah, but I like the way it makes me feel. And so they would want, yes, it might be materialistic. No, you don't need it. Of course, nobody needs a handbag. We need food, we need shelter, we need water. We don't need a handbag. However, if it makes you feel good, put it on there. Why judge yourself? Why limit yourself? You could manifest, something that's smaller, a bike to ride around in, a mode of transport that I can own and I can ride around on. Or you could manifest something quote unquote frivolous, like a designer handbag. But
like
it
Taylor
depends
Swift tickets.
or Taylor Swift tickets. Why not? But you going and having Taylor Swift tickets, you manifested that out of nowhere. I love that. But that is an event that will stay with you for the rest of your life. You went to a concert venue with thousands of other people who are all in a state of excitement and joy, who all want to be there, listening to a performer who's amazing in what she does, who puts on incredible performance. And after watching your video where you were training like Taylor Swift on the treadmill, I was in awe of not only you for doing the challenge, but her, because she is an athlete, isn't she?
She is.
Every night, 3.5 hours of singing, dancing, performing, and to do it all again 24 hours later, she's got some stamina. Wow. But what you were saying about big goals and small goals, or how tapping into how it makes you feel, I think the feeling behind it is everything. So whilst you might have put the house on the vision board, you're quite right. Is it the house or is it the feeling of security? But why judge either? It doesn't. It's the feeling of security. That's great. You may be able to achieve that feeling of security in a smaller house. But if you're placing an order with the universe, if you're dreaming, we don't allow ourselves to dream enough. We're like, it's almost like we think somebody's going to be stood over our shoulder watching, saying, well, you can't have that. That's too big for you. Why? Who says? Who says? If I'm going to spend the next hour of my life putting together a vision board, I'll put on it whatever I damn well like. And it's nobody else's business. And who am I making happy in this hour? Myself. And what's wrong with that? And if I've got a smile on my face, I'm more likely to go out into the world and smile at other people. And I'm more likely to radiate happiness and hold open doors and treat people with respect and be a pleasant person to be around. And how is that going to affect the other people?
That's it. When you talk about that, one of the things that we had at the YouTube event, which I thought was really interesting, is we had Kirk Ballas from the Magic Academy, which is kind of the how to be creative part of Google and YouTube. Talked about different types of reasoning. So you had the expansive reasoning and the reductive reasoning. And as we grow up, we become very good at the reductive part of what am I actually going to do? But we're not very good at the expansive part, which is what are all the things that I can do? And this very much almost sits in that first part of what are all the possibilities for me? What could I do? And it's tapping into that almost creative and expansive part of our brains and exercising it, which I don't think we do enough. That's
Yeah.
kind of brought me back to the YouTube event in a way. But one thing that really you touched on, which I'm interested to hear your perspective on, is that you said when you share it with other people, is something like manifesting, is it best practice to share with lots of people, or is it something that can be more personal, you just keep to yourself? Does it work better when you kind of put it out there and say it more? How does that work, or is it a personal thing?
I think it's probably a personal thing because I think
Mhm.
both answers are correct. There are some things that like, I shared with you on Monday. I'm going to go get an envelope from YouTube. And you were like, why are you going to do that? And so I told you about that goal.
Yeah.
So yes, I shared that with you, but there might be other manifestations that I don't feel ready to share publicly, and I want to
Hmm.
keep them private for me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with either way. I think that sometimes if you've got don't they say like if you have a seed of an idea, this could be in any aspect. This could be with say starting a business or starting a YouTube channel. If you have a seed of an idea, water that seed and love that seed and protect that seed from outside elements until that
Mm.
seed becomes too big that it can't be crushed.
Mm.
Because once that seed is an oak tree, nobody's going to crush an oak tree. It
Yeah.
stands still on its own, it's there. But when it's a seedling or it's a small, delicate flower, somebody could crush on that. So, somebody doing a negative, what the hell are you doing that for? What a waste of time.
Hmm.
Well, it might be a waste of time to you, but it isn't a waste of time to me if it makes me happy. Like spending an hour dreaming big, who is that serving? Well, it's making me happy. So, how is that a waste of time? How is it a waste of time when it's time spent joyfully? Isn't it
Yeah.
better being miserable?
Yeah, that metaphor really resonates with me actually, because I think recently off the back of this, I hadn't shared that I had a YouTube channel with basically anyone. I had a couple of really close friends that I'd shared with who I knew were really supportive and almost that I felt safe to, but I hadn't shared it wider. And this week, actually, as a result of the BBC article and generally, I thought actually now's the time that I've made enough videos, I've invested, I know that I really enjoy this. If someone turns around and said, well, why are you making that? Actually, it's almost that oak tree where I knew when I was starting it's something I'd enjoy and the reason why I did it, but now I feel like I've really got a firm ground to stand on that. Like it's something I really enjoy. I'm putting my time into it. I'm producing a video every week. And I got to that point where I was like, actually, now I'm happy to share that I'm doing this, and it feels almost defensible is the wrong word, but it's solid enough on its own. Where I think if I'd done it at that time where I'd just done one video and shared it, I probably would have been quite easily crushed. And I never thought about it in terms of that metaphor of there's a reason why I didn't share it. I was kind of like, well, it's because I'm being quite nervous about it. Where now I've been actually, you know what, I will put it on my private Instagram and tell people that I am now doing this. And the response has been fantastic. But I've just suddenly that metaphor really rings home to me because that was literally me a couple of days ago. I was like, I am now ready to share and open it up. That's probably more of a physical thing, but you could also do that with your manifestations. That actually you've got that goal, you nurture it, maybe share it with a couple of people who you're really close to keep you accountable or to kind of have that support, but then you don't open it up wider until you're secure and ready to, which is yeah, very very
Exactly.
resonating.
And we also know, don't we, from the world of social media, no matter what you do or what you're putting out into the universe, you might get 99 claps from people, but the 100th person might say, what a load of rubbish,
Yeah.
or crap all over it, even if it's something good that you're doing. I'm doing a run for charity. Well, that's something that's good, isn't it? We're raising money, we're raising awareness, but somebody somewhere will crap on it. And so, why give them that power when it's big enough to stand on its own 2 feet? You were just protecting it by keeping it. It wasn't that you were nervous or embarrassed or whatever.
Mm,
You were nurturing your seed until it was big enough to stand on its own.
yeah. And actually it's interesting you mentioned that kind of comment point is it's one thing that really resonated from the YouTube event, I think is also quite similar, is feedback is not you have to do it. It's not a prescription, it's a suggestion. And it's when you get into that place where you can now take it and be like, maybe some of those comments do have a grounding of truth. Maybe I do need to work on, silly example, like audio quality, for example. I had some videos where I accidentally didn't have it on mono, so only one earphone worked, and it took me a while to pick that up. And at first I was a bit like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've done that. It's actually, no, that's a really positive bit of feedback and suggestion that I've done that I can improve. But it is that flip around when you're ready to take it, and when you're ready to almost weather those comments and view them as suggestions, is a great time to share it and put it out there.
And that's another key thing as well. Whatever it is we do, when somebody does come along and says the audio on this video is rubbish, you really need to look at that. That is a constructive criticism. They couldn't hear the video. They obviously wanted to hear the video and were unable to, so it was a suggestion. And I think when it's strong enough on its own, you feel more happy to accept the criticism, knowing that you're not taking it personally. They're not saying you're rubbish. They're saying the audio on this video is rubbish. It doesn't mean you're rubbish, but a lot of us take things so personally, and we decide that means it's about me. I think how many times in life do we hold ourselves back from doing what we want to do because we're scared of failing? And really, if you're not failing, are you really living? Because
exactly.
I don't know anyone who's done something successful that hasn't fallen on their ass.
Yeah, at least before. We've all done it, even throughout school or somewhere at some point.
We've all done it.
You've done something wrong, and you learn from it. The way you phrase it there always brings us back around to it's how you respond to it, and the mind frame that you bring into it. Is you could take that really personally and almost shut yourself off, stop doing things, or you can say you do take it personally for a bit, and there is a natural element, but then you say, actually, how can I respond to this, and I can grow better from it.
Oh, I love that. Before we wrap up, do you have any more questions? Give me a question, or if you don't have a question, I just want to hear the details of when you're going to Taylor Swift, because we don't know that yet.
But I'll give you the details and I'll ask you a question. How about that? So I am going to Taylor Swift on Sunday in Wembley. So I am very excited. I actually can't wait. I've been watching a couple of the live streams of her show again, and just it's so exciting. So we'll see what that surprise song has in store, and I think it'll be one of those experiences that does kind of stay with me for a long time, and will be super inspiring and in awe to watch the athlete and mastermind that she is on stage. So yeah, watch out. I might do a video on it. Let's see, because it's going to be an amazing experience. But my final question for you, because I know that we talked about you're doing this series, it'd be great to hear what you have in store for it and what's next, and I guess also for the listeners to hear more about the plans around it.
Oh, that is such a lovely question, and I didn't even plan that. I didn't even ask you to ask me that.
I'm curious, so.
Well, do you know what? I met so many lovely women at that event, and two of the ladies that I spoke to at that event, they're sisters, and they do business and a YouTube channel together. I'm going to be interviewing them, and there was another lady at the event who I'm interviewing in 2 weeks. One of the interviews coming up manifested a spiritual business and became the resident astrologer at a luxury hotel in London.
Oh, wow.
And did a collaboration with designer brand Fendi. And then another interview is I manifested £250,000.
Wow.
I mean, my jaw dropped when I heard that one. So that's what's coming up in this series. Basically interviewing perfectly ordinary women with extraordinary stories.
Love it.
That's a great place to end it. Rebs, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to put all of the links to all of your content in the show notes below. But thank you so much.
Thanks so much for doing me. Great getting to chat about this topic.